alumni, the professionals who are in risk management, is think of yourselves as growth managers, as scale managers. Unlike other people who come in with product ideas, other people who come in with go-to-market strategies, other people who come in with operational excellence caliber, you come in with the skills and with the training to create trust and confidence in those systems so that they can scale and they can grow. Can you hear me okay? Last row. You know, being on the last row in a classroom has its advantages because you can sleep. Out here, I'm not sure. The light is already dim, so in case some of you just want to come in front, that's okay. So good evening, everyone. Thanks a lot for inviting me. It is an absolutely stellar gathering. I'm really humbled to speak in front of both the students here as well as the distinguished guests and alumni and board sitting in front. When I got this invitation from Subhashish, I was thinking about GRMI, and I was reminded of this quote by Winston Churchill. He said that you can always depend on the Americans to do the correct thing or the right thing after they have tried everything else. So in Subhashish's career, I think this is GRMI. Okay? He's tried everything else, and he's now landed at the right place, and he's doing the right thing. You know, the convention for a convocation speech is to give the benefit of the speaker's gray hair, receding memory to the students. Is there any way we can get this light a little lower? It's possible. Yeah. And I'm going to honor that convocation, but you know, unlike YouTube videos which will give you recipes for becoming Superman and Superwoman, I'll be a little more grounded, a little more prosaic. So the one thing that I've learned, not just in my life, but looking at everyone else, my peer and seniors, is that being successful is a series of excelling at different contradictions, managing contradictions. So I'm going to spend time today talking about 3 apparent contradictions. And I do want to mention the fact that apparent is a very key word there, because while they look like contradictions, if you think deeply and you practice them, they will turn out to be pretty integral to each other. Now, why do I have the confidence to talk about managing contradictions when it sounds scary, when it sounds challenging? Because, you know, the author, F. Scott Fitzgerald, actually said that the test of a first-class or first-rate intelligence is the ability to hold 2 conflicting or contradictory thoughts in your mind at the same time and still be functional. Now, given that people here are associated with GRMI, the intelligence box is ticked. So I have every confidence that all of you will be able to manage through these contradictions and do extremely well in life. So the first contradiction is really about your profession. You know, your job, as you get into the workplace, as you do your own stuff, is really to help manage risk. Yet, the value that you are going to bring is about helping to scale businesses and scale growth. So the job is to manage risk, the value is for scaling growth. Now, why is that apparent contradiction but not really a contradiction? And the reason for that, and I'll really recommend all of you to read this book called Against the Gods by Peter Bernstein, where the author makes the case that the core of human progress has depended on effective risk management principles. Now, why does the author make that statement? He makes the statement because if you think of anything at scale, if you think of trade and commerce at scale, if you think of globalization at scale, if you think of financial markets at scale, it operates on trust and confidence. And trust and confidence not between people who know each other, but trust and confidence between people who have no clue who the other party is. It's a many-to-many network which seems to operate based on certain principles. And those principles are essentially risk management principles. So if you think of the financial world, the depth and the breadth of the world comes from speculation, not from vanilla investments. The amount of trades that go through any network is 90-10. 90% speculation, 10% vanilla investment. So you won't have financial markets if you didn't allow speculation. Speculation by definition seems to be risky. But it is the governance mechanism, it is the risk management mechanism, it is the guardrails, it is the confidence in systems, it's the confidence in processes, it's the confidence in rules that makes it work 99.99% of the time. Of course, there's 0.001% of the time when it fails. But you know, there is no progress without risk. If human beings did not take risk, we will be in the dark ages. On the other side, if you take unmitigated risk, if you take unmanaged risk, if you take unthoughtful risk, then you have the FTX, then you have Byju's, and then you have a whole bunch of other stuff that happens. So my submission to the students, the alumni, the professionals who are in risk management is think of yourselves as growth managers, as scale managers. Unlike other people who come in with product ideas, other people who come in with go-to-market strategies, other people who come in with operational excellence caliber, you come in with the skills and with the training to create trust and confidence in those systems so that they can scale and they can grow. And that's why you are actually growth managers and not risk managers. I'll move on to the second apparent contradiction, which is about your career. So we'll move from profession to your career. And the statement I'm going to make is, don't speculate with your career, but take a few big swings. So let's work on the not speculating part. If you open a trading app today, or you go to a trading site, you will find that SEBI has regulated and a blurb comes out. 90% of the traders lose money. And those who make money actually make less money than they think because of friction and trading costs. It's no different for a professional. As you grow through your professional journey and as you become more and more senior and a more tenured professional, what you'll be valued for is how you have performed through cycles, business cycles, not how many times you have hopped. And that requires perseverance, that requires persistence, that requires going through the hard grind. Let me also use the risk language to tell you why speculation doesn't work on careers. It's the concept of asymmetric risk. Let's say you just want to move from job A to job B for 20% compensation increase. Your upside is capped to 20%. Now, success in a profession depends on three things: the working environment you're in, the kind of role you're in which allows you to learn and grow as a professional, and the kind of boss you have. So if you have all three, then you've hit the jackpot. Never trade for anything else. If you have 2 out of 3, try and see if you can change the other variable first inside and then outside. And if you have none of the 3, then frankly I have to ask you, what the hell are you doing there? So now if you trade for 20% capped upside with the unknowns of this 3, because you're only trading for money, then you have infinite downside on your career. And that's asymmetric risk. So those of you who have learned risk as risk professional, you don't take asymmetric risk. It's never a good day. You'll win 1 out of 100 times. Right? The taking big swings part is equally important. And if you think, what is a big swing? A big swing is when you go out of your comfort zone. You do something new. You don't know whether you'll be successful or not, but you have to try. You take on a big challenge, whether you move from a job to entrepreneurship or whether you move from a job which is a very different type of job. You have to make that once in a while. Now, why is it necessary to make that? And I think this is best summed up by what the Brazilian author Paulo Coelho said. He has a quote which goes like this, which says, if you think adventure is scary, try routine, it's lethal. So when you get very comfortable in your job, when you think you are not growing, you're not learning, it's time to take a big swing. Now, the problem with big swings is that they're not predictable. You can't go and search for them generically. So there are 2 things that has to happen. A, you have to get lucky, you have to get a chance. But the B is that you have to make yourself ready. And how do you make ready for a big swing? So the first is you build your own brand, the professional brand. 2 is you build your network. And 3, you develop the courage to listen to your gut. Every one of the luminaries sitting in the first row out here, find a time to talk to them. They can tell you they took some of these big swings in their career. That's the reason they're here. That's the reason why Shivashish created GRMI. That's the reason why I did whatever I did. So now let's talk a little bit about these 3 things. Now the question on gut, I'm not going to spend too much time on that other than the fact that, whenever you have to listen to your gut, I think the best guide for that is possibly Nelson Mandela, who said, let your choices reflect your hopes and not your fears. You must do it for the right reason, not because I hate doing something now. It's because I'm so excited to do something else. On making a brand, it's no different than making a consumer brand. What does a consumer brand do? First, it has to do its core function very well. So there's no substitute for showing up and delivering every day and every time. You have to be damn good at your job, at your function. The second thing a brand does is it gives a little bit more than the core function. It has perceived value. That's the difference from generics. That's why they command a premium. In your case as professional, in our case as professional, it's about this thing called potential. Potential is what others see in you to do the next big job, not the one that you're doing now. That's performance. Now, how do you build potential? We'll come to that a little later. And the third thing that a brand does is it has resilience. It has bad days, it has crisis, but it bounces back stronger. If you think of all the big 4, many of you are working with big 4s, they've had a bunch of scandals, they've had a bunch of blow-ups, but every time they've come back stronger and bigger. You are going to have a lot of bad days, I'm sorry to say that. Okay? And when you have a bad day, my only request to you is remember what the famous boxing film Rocky, where Rocky said, it doesn't matter how hard you hit, it matters how hard you can get hit and still keep moving forward. So the only way to be successful in a profession is to have the boxer's heart. Keep falling, but more importantly, keep getting up. That's the brand part of it. On network, you have to again be a little bit go outside your comfort zone. It's easy to be within the same team that you work with. It's easy to be within the same group of friends that you have grown up with. It's easy to be in the network of GRMI. I'd really request and urge all of you to start talking to people, meeting other people. Now, whether you do it through Tinder or somewhere else, that's up to you. But I suspect, why not? But as long as you're meeting people who are not from GRMI, hopefully you'll have some conversation where you'll learn something more, learn something different, right? And that's the way network will evolve. It's a long process, it's a lifelong process. It's not going to happen overnight. You can't tick the box saying, it's not accepting a friend request on Meta. You can't count how many friends you made today. That's not network. So it's a long process, commit to it, go a little bit out of your comfort zone, try and talk different things. Now how do you do that? We'll talk a little bit later again. And that's how you build your network. Which brings me to the last apparent contradiction, which is you as an individual. And I'll submit to you that you have to be super self-obsessed and at the same time community-minded. Why super self-obsessed? Because self-obsession you require for one finite constraint you have in life. There's only one finite constraint, which is the time you have. It's the only currency you have. How you spend it, how you use it, is going to make the difference between what brand you become. Now, you have to spend time on your health. Trust me, at your age, you will think you are all immortal. For that, again, a sobering conversation with the groups in front. But how healthy you are, really intrinsically, will determine how much energy and initiative you bring to your work. And that will make a difference. You'll have to spend time on building that brand, which means you have to spend time reading, reflecting, absorbing, debating, talking to people, networking. It takes time. It doesn't happen just by itself. It is a choice and a deliberate action, and not a non-deliberate action of listening to a meaningless drivel on the television or an OTT platform, which, by the way, you'll have to make time for leisure because you need the mind to and brain to be recharged and energized. And finally, you also need time to just do nothing, just downtime, just be lazy. And you might need time for hobbies, you might need time for fun. I mean, the last thing GRMI students will do is to reinforce the stereotypical image of a boring risk professional. Right? So you need time for your family and close friends. And when I say close friends, the real friends. Now, if you line all of this up, and by the way, you're also doing a job, hopefully. So if you line all this up, you're against a finite constraint, 24 hours. That doesn't change. There's no mechanism, no science in the world it changes. Till Mr. Musk does something on time travel or something. So we have to wait for that. So that's why you need to be self-obsessed. What each of your time trade-offs will be as unique as each one of you. My only submission to you is you make the trade-off. No one else makes the trade-off for you. If you follow that rule for 90% of your time, you will be a better professional than most others. I'll now like to come back to the point on community-minded. I'm sure there are some of you here who volunteer your time and resources for working for the community in different ways. You are on the virtuous end of the spectrum. Kudos to you. I'll also encourage the others that at some point in time, whenever you feel right, there's no right or wrong time, start experimenting with it. I did it too late in life, and it changes perspective. So the choice to be engaged in community actively is yours. The choice to be indifferent to community is not yours. We are extremely privileged, every one of us here, that we won the genetic lottery to have a good intellect, a great education, and therefore the opportunities to be successful in life. But we are the minority. So how you deal with the Zomato delivery guy, whether you drive on the wrong side of the road because you can't go 500 meters to take a U-turn, whether you leave the public toilet the same way you wanted to enter it, whether you wake up 10 minutes before in the morning to catch the early morning flight and therefore not have to jump the queue, the security queue, these things matter. It is not a testament to your creativity or your enterprise that you can cut corners and take undue advantage of others. Unfortunately, too many educated people in India think that. I'm absolutely confident, and I have no doubt in my mind that all of you will be outstanding professionals. I sincerely hope none of you become one at the expense of being a responsible citizen. Thank you, and best wishes for your career.